A Cincinnati sheriff's deputy was fatally struck by a car while directing traffic during a graduation. The defendant driver, identified as Rodney Hinton Jr., was arrested on a charge of aggravated murder. Police say it appears from witnesses that he deliberately struck the deputy. Hinton Jr. is the father of 18-year-old Ryan Hinton, who was shot and killed by Cincinnati police on Thursday morning, says Cincinnati's police.
I want my brother to see me. Take a breather. I just want my brother to see me. I just want my brother to see me.
I hear you.
My brother can't see me. They did this shit before. They did this shit before.
This is not the way to do it.
They did it before. I got video of them messing with my brother and me before. I ain't do nothing. I just want my brother to see me. I just want my, I ain't do nothing to him. That's my family. That's my family.
Come on.
Ray, please. Ray, please.
Doing all that. Man, see me one-on-one, man. Now that 40 motherfuckers here for my brother, man.
He was a grieving father, furious, and convinced the people meant to protect his son had done the opposite. Just hours after police gunned down his teenage boy during a tense standoff, 45-year-old Rodney Hinton Jr. did something no one saw coming. In the early hours of May 2, 2025, Cincinnati, Ohio, was rocked by a devastating act of violence. Deputy Larry Henderson, a respected member of the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, was struck and killed by a vehicle while directing traffic near the University of Cincinnati. The driver, identified as 38-year-old Rodney Hinton Jr., was arrested at the scene and charged with aggravated murder. This incident occurred just one day after Hinton's 18-year-old son, Ryan Hinton, was fatally shot by Cincinnati police during a foot chase related to a stolen vehicle investigation. Body camera footage released by the police showed officers shouting, "He's got a gun," before firing multiple shots. However, the footage did not clearly show Ryan pointing a weapon, and there was no indication that he fired at the officers. The back-to-back tragedies have left the community in shock and mourning. Deputy Henderson, who had retired a few months prior but continued to serve in a part-time capacity, was remembered by colleagues and officials as a dedicated public servant. Hamilton County Sheriff Charmaine McGuffey expressed deep sorrow over the loss, highlighting the deputy's commitment to public safety. As the legal proceedings against Rodney Hinton Jr. unfold, questions arise about the motivations behind his actions and the broader implications of these events. Was this a calculated act of revenge, or a manifestation of overwhelming grief? The community seeks answers as it grapples with the complexities of justice, accountability, and the human capacity for both resilience and despair. Welcome to Psychocrimes, where we expose the world's most shocking criminal cases with in-depth storytelling and analysis. If you're fascinated by high-profile trials, disturbing motives, and stories that make you question everything, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We bring you gripping stories that others won't touch. Now back to Rodney Hinton Jr., a man who, in a matter of hours, went from grieving father to the face of a statewide alert. But to truly understand how we got here, we need to look at the final hours of his son's life and the decision that lit a fire neither side was prepared to contain. Ryan Hinton was just 18, fresh out of high school with a long life still ahead of him. On May 1, 2025, everything changed in a matter of minutes. That day, officers from the Cincinnati Police Department responded to a call about a suspicious vehicle, one they believed had been stolen. The car was parked in a lot at the corner of McMicken and Marshall Avenue. Inside it were 3 teenagers, Ryan and 2 others. When police approached the vehicle, the teenagers fled on foot. Officers quickly gave chase. Ryan ran through the narrow back streets, moving fast, his heart likely pounding. Police say they spotted a firearm on him as he fled. They claim he ignored repeated commands to drop it. Then came the moment that still sparks debate across the community. As Ryan ran, several officers opened fire. Body camera footage later released by the department showed the encounter, but not clearly. In the video, an officer can be heard yelling, "He's got a gun." but it's hard to tell what Ryan was doing with his hands. At no point did the footage confirm that he pointed the weapon at officers or attempted to use it. When it was over, Ryan lay on the pavement, fatally wounded. A firearm was recovered near his body. Police stated that he never fired a shot. They also confirmed that the weapon was loaded. The public reaction was immediate and divided. Some saw the shooting as yet another case of excessive force. Others believed the officers had acted within protocol, citing the presence of a gun and the refusal to stop. Ryan's family, devastated by his death, demanded answers. His father, Rodney Hinton Jr., was especially vocal. He questioned why lethal force was used on a teenager who was running away. He questioned whether officers ever truly saw a threat or simply reacted out of fear. At a press conference, Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Theach expressed sympathy for the Hinton family but defended her officers. She emphasized that the investigation was ongoing and that the department had turned over all materials to the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office. But for Rodney, the public statements weren't enough. Just hours after watching the footage of his son's final moments, something inside him seemed to change. The grief was visible. The anger, unmistakable. No one knew what was coming next. On the morning of May 2, 2025, just a day after the fatal shooting of 18-year-old Ryan Hinton by Cincinnati police, a second tragedy unfolded in the heart of the city. Deputy Larry Henderson, a 33-year veteran of the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, was assigned to a traffic detail near the University of Cincinnati's campus. The area was bustling with activity due to the university's commencement ceremonies. As he managed the flow of vehicles and pedestrians at the intersection of Martin Luther King Drive and Burnett Woods Drive, an unexpected and devastating event occurred. At approximately 1 p.m., a vehicle accelerated towards Deputy Henderson, striking him with significant force. Witnesses reported that the impact propelled him several feet into the air, causing severe injuries. Emergency responders arrived swiftly, but despite their efforts, Deputy Henderson succumbed to his injuries shortly thereafter. The driver of the vehicle was identified as 38-year-old Rodney Hinton Jr., the father of Ryan Hinton. Authorities arrested Hinton at the scene and charged him with aggravated murder, alleging that the act was intentional and directly linked to the death of his son. Deputy Henderson's death sent shockwaves through the community. Colleagues and friends remembered him as a dedicated officer who had served with distinction since joining the force in 1991.
Struck on Friday.
That was a gut punch.
Keith Lewis had a bad feeling.
I sent him a text message and I said, "Tell me you're okay."
To Larry.
To Larry. And I never got a response back.
For the past week, Lewis and other law enforcement have mourned the loss of one of their own, fallen Hamilton County Sheriff's Deputy Larry Henderson.
Larry loved to laugh. He smiled. They just can't believe it.
Lewis first met Henderson 27 years ago. Their paths crossed every now and then. And in recent years, they worked security together at Mercy Anderson.
He was a better person than he was a police officer, and that's saying a lot because Larry was the best police officer that you could possibly find.
To those who knew him, Larry was everywhere and left an impression on just about everyone.
I hope it inspires everyone else to want to be like him.
His commitment to public service extended beyond his official duties. He was known for his mentorship and his role in training numerous deputies throughout his career. In honor of his service, the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office announced the retirement of Deputy Henderson's badge number 129. Memorials and tributes poured in from across the state, with flags ordered to be flown at half-staff by Governor Mike DeWine until the day of his funeral. The incident raised numerous questions about the circumstances leading up to the attack. Prosecutors argued that Hinton's actions were premeditated, suggesting that he deliberately targeted the first law enforcement officer he encountered as an act of retribution. During court proceedings, it was revealed that Hinton had visited the police station earlier that day, appearing agitated, before leaving shortly before the incident occurred. The courtroom was filled with law enforcement officers and members of the community, all seeking answers and justice for the fallen deputy. The case highlighted the profound and far-reaching impact of grief and the potential consequences when it manifests in acts of violence. Deputy Henderson's untimely death underscored the risks faced by law enforcement officers daily and the importance of addressing the emotional and psychological toll that such tragedies can have on individuals and communities alike. Before we continue, what do you think drove Rodney Hinton to this point? Was it revenge, mental collapse, or something deeper? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Also, if you're just tuning in, welcome to Psycho Crimes. We bring you intense criminal cases, twisted motives, and courtroom bombshells from across the globe. If you're into detailed investigations and gripping stories, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next case. Rodney Hinton Jr.'s capture marked only the beginning of a long and harrowing legal journey. The shock of his actions reverberated through the community, and as details unfolded, public opinion became sharply divided. Hinton's bond hearing was a tense affair, and it was clear from the outset that his mental state would be a central issue in his defense.
Familiar with acts of someone that is not in their right mind when they commit a criminal act?
His attorney, Clyde Bennett II, argued that the events leading to Deputy Thomas's death were a direct result of Hinton's psychological breakdown. Bennett requested a mental health evaluation, hinting at the possibility of an insanity plea. For those close to Hinton, the question wasn't about whether he had committed the crime, it was about understanding why he had done it. The courtroom was filled with emotions as relatives, law enforcement officers, and members of the public packed the benches. On one side, Hinton's family, grappling with their own grief, argued that his mental health had deteriorated after his son's tragic death and the relentless pressure of his escalating personal crises. On the other side, the prosecution stood firm in asserting that Hinton's actions were intentional, that he had acted with premeditation and malice.
Through the intersection, directly at where Deputy Henderson was standing, struck Deputy Henderson and the metal utility pole on the northeast corner of the intersection.
Okay. Were there any evidence of skid marks?
No, there were no indications at any point that he tried to brake, stop, or otherwise avoid Deputy Henderson.
I think the conduct in question is classic mental illness criminal conduct. It's always intentional, it's bold, it's conspicuous.
I don't know that...
That's a hallmark sign that somebody is not in their right frame of mind, no attempt to deceive, no attempt to hide what they did.
Rodney Hinton Jr.'s capture marked only the beginning of a long and harrowing legal journey. The shock of his actions reverberated through the community, and as details unfolded, public opinion became sharply divided. Hinton's bond hearing was a tense affair, and it was clear from the outset that his mental state would be a central issue in his defense. His attorney, Clyde Bennett II, argued that the events leading to Deputy Larry Henderson's death were a direct result of Hinton's psychological breakdown. Bennett requested a mental health evaluation, hinting at the possibility of an insanity plea. For those close to Hinton, the question wasn't about whether he had committed the crime, it was about understanding why he had done it. The courtroom was filled with emotions as relatives, law enforcement officers, and members of the public packed the benches. On one side, Hinton's family, grappling with their own grief, argued that his mental health had deteriorated after his son's tragic death and the relentless pressure of his escalating personal crises. On the other side, the prosecution stood firm in asserting that Hinton's actions were intentional, that he had acted with premeditation and malice. The media, meanwhile, seemed captivated by the dramatic contrast of emotions, the anguish of the Hinton family against the raw pain of Deputy Larry Henderson's loved ones. Every development in the case seemed to attract the attention of both local and national news outlets. Television cameras captured every courtroom moment, each word and gesture framed as a piece of a larger, unfolding tragedy. Family and friends of Deputy Larry Henderson spoke out publicly, their grief and anger evident in the emotional statements they made. They described Deputy Larry Henderson as a man who had dedicated her life to serving and protecting the public. Many of them questioned how Hinton could have escalated to such a horrific act, with some pointing to the trauma of losing his son as a possible contributing factor. Yet, others insisted that no amount of personal hardship could justify what had transpired.
A few hours later, I was made aware that Rodney had an incident with a police officer that resulted in the officer's death. But again, we are here because we represent the estate and the police-involved shooting.
As the media storm raged on, public opinion shifted, with some sympathizing with Hinton's mental health struggles, while others called for the harshest penalties. It became clear that the case wasn't just about one man's actions. It had become a symbol of the broader issues surrounding mental health, law enforcement, and the devastating consequences of unchecked rage. The case quickly garnered national attention. Hinton's mental health, once a private matter, was thrust into the public eye. Experts were divided, some believing that Hinton's breakdown after the tragic loss of his son could explain his actions, while others insisted that he had crossed a line from grief to intentional violence. Social media platforms were flooded with passionate debates over whether justice for Deputy Larry Henderson would mean punishment for Hinton or compassion for a man in deep distress. As the court proceedings continued, the pressure on both sides mounted. Would Hinton stand trial, or would he be declared unfit to face charges? The world watched closely, waiting to see how this emotionally charged case would play out. Would the law treat his crime as a calculated act of revenge, or would it be viewed as the tragic outcome of a man unraveling under unbearable stress?
As cut and dry as this officer should have just pulled out his gun and shot at Ryan. It's not that cut and dry. So that's why we're doing the records request. We're going to analyze frame by frame each one of these videos to determine why the officer made that deadly decision to shoot and kill Ryan.
Ryan Hinton's grandfather, the father of Rodney Hinton, also spoke.
I want to give a condolence out to the officers that got hurt, got killed, my whole family. I'm asking for forgiveness, and I've been praying hard for the officer that killed my grandson. I've been praying hard for him and his family because I know he's hurting off this. If I seen in the video about my grandson, I seen two scared people. I seen the officer scared, and I seen my grandson scared. So it's an unfortunate incident that happened. So that's all I seen. It was like, I didn't see the police there trying to kill. No. What I seen was two persons made a mistake. My grandson made a mistake being there, and the officer, he was trying to get back to his family too. So that's what I seen. So it's not about revenge or anything. I had nothing against nobody. You know, my Lord and Savior is Jesus Christ, and I represent Him. So, with that said, please, everybody, just try to forgive everybody who done anything to me.
The case of Rodney Hinton Jr. is one that raises difficult questions about the intersections of mental health, justice, and accountability. The tragic events of that night in Ohio left a community reeling, and while Deputy Larry Henderson's death is undeniably a horrific loss, the complex layers surrounding Hinton's actions demand careful consideration. As the case progressed, one thing became clear: there is no easy answer to this tragedy. Rodney Hinton Jr. was not just a man who killed a police officer. He was a father who had lost his son, a man who had endured significant personal pain and suffering. His deteriorating mental health following the loss was a critical factor in the events that transpired, but the law is strict. It does not always take personal anguish into account when determining guilt or innocence. The legal battle that followed would serve as a test of the justice system's ability to reconcile these competing factors. Should a defendant's state of mind excuse violent acts, or is the law's duty to hold individuals accountable above all else? In Hinton's case, the question wasn't just whether he was guilty of murder, but whether his grief and psychological struggles should influence the severity of the punishment. The courtroom drama underscored a larger societal debate. How should we, as a society, treat individuals who commit acts of violence while under extreme emotional distress? Should we consider their mental state more seriously, or does this create a dangerous precedent that undermines the law's ability to deter crime? For Deputy Larry Henderson's family, the question was simpler. No amount of mental health struggles could bring their loved one back. They saw Hinton's actions as unforgivable, and in their grief, they sought justice, hoping that the legal system would punish him accordingly. But for others, the question of Hinton's mental health was paramount. His breakdown was a symptom of a larger issue: how society often overlooks those who struggle with severe psychological distress until it's too late. As the case neared its conclusion, many wondered how the court would balance these competing emotions and interests. Could they find a path forward that would bring justice Deputy Larry Henderson's family while also addressing the deep mental health issues that may have contributed to Hinton's actions? The story of Rodney Hinton Jr. serves as a powerful reminder of the delicate balance between mental health and justice. It challenges us to consider what truly drives people to commit acts of violence, and whether our legal system can adapt to address these challenges fairly. As we reflect on this case, it's crucial to understand that mental health isn't just an issue for the individual, it's a societal concern. Mental illness does not excuse violent behavior, but it does call for us to examine how we approach such cases. What happens when a person's pain goes unnoticed until it leads to a tragedy? What do you believe should have been Hinton's fate? Was the law too harsh or too lenient? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this case gripping, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Join us here at Psycho Crimes, where we dive deep into the most compelling and complex true crime stories that leave you questioning everything. Stay tuned for more.